I guess, Irene, if you would start the meeting.
I'm going to start the recording first, and then I will broadcast the meeting.
Great.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, and just give a second in case there's anybody waiting to be brought into the meeting. It looks like we're adding folks. Okay, good. So sorry for the delay, anyone who is waiting. We're still waiting on a couple of folks to join, but we're going to get started because we do have a quorum. So if we could please, Irene, start with the roll call of the committee members.
Yes. Councilmember Armeño.
Present.
Councilmember Marquez. Please note, Councilmember Marquez is not here at the moment. Chair Mendel.
Yeah, I'm here, and I see Councilmember Marquez connecting. Councilmember Marquez, can you hear us okay? Yeah, all right, she's nodding, so. So good, we've got all members present, and we'll move into public comments. This is the public's chance to speak on items that are related to the Council Sustainability Committee, but are not on today's agenda. So anyone who would like to do so, please raise your hand in the Zoom app, and we'll get you unmuted and give you a chance. Don't see any hands going up. We will have other opportunities for public comment on each individual item. So practice raising your hand and lowering it now so that you're ready when your item comes up if you want to speak on any of them. Okay, so we'll close the public comment and move into item number 1, which is approval of the Sustainability Committee minutes from October 15th. Were there any corrections to that?
I don't have any, Chair.
Okay.
Can I move on the minutes?
Second.
Great. Quick roll call vote for all in favor.
Councilmember Armeño.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Chair Mendel.
Yes, great. So that passes unanimously. Thank you all. All right. There's several items today, the meatier items. And the first one is the possible elements of a new solid waste franchise agreement. We're going to be reviewing that and providing direction to staff. And I don't know, Jeff, if I'm handing it right off to you, you can kick off the presentation.
And I'll just give a brief introduction, and we have a team of waste management folks here that'll do the presentation and be available to answer questions. So we're in the process of negotiating a new franchise agreement with Waste Management to provide solid waste services for Hayward. And as part of that, there's some new elements that we could add to the franchise agreement that have the potential to reduce contamination in carts, help Hayward comply with the new law, SB 1383, and help Hayward meet some other sustainability goals. And we have Virginia Harrington, who's going to give a PowerPoint, and she's with Waste Management. She's a public sector manager. Also on the line here, we have Brad Sia, who's an area sales and public sector director. Greg Ong and Kathy Ng, who are financial analysts, and then Todd Ninehouse, who's a senior district manager that'll be ready to answer questions. So with that, I'll hand it off to you, Virginia, and go ahead.
Great. Well, good afternoon, members of the Council Sustainability Committee and public. And as Jeff mentioned, my name is Virginia Harrington. With Waste Management of Alameda County, also known as WMAC for short, so you might catch me saying WMAC during the presentation. And we greatly appreciate the current partnership that we have with the City of Hayward and feel like we've had some really productive conversations with staff. And this is just a great time, I think, to sort of share some of the things that we've been talking about and really want to get your feedback and answer questions so that as we continue the conversations, we're going in the direction that you would like. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And it should be coming up in just a second there.
It's up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So here we go with helping the City of Hayward reduce contamination and meet SB 1383 goals. So I'll be touching base briefly on the background, talking about the environmental challenges today, enhancing services, clean and green community, and also extending our partnership. I know that you are already familiar with the background that the city currently holds the franchise agreement with WEMAC, that TriSed is the community recycling subcontractor for the residential recycling services. And this agreement is going to be expiring, which is why we're having these conversations. Along with the agreement coming up for expiration, we've been really looking at some of the environmental challenges today and that we see in the future. I think it will come as no surprise to anyone on this committee, recycling challenges. There with National Sword, there are very, very high standards for having low contamination. So we need to, kind of have some ideas for addressing that. And quite frankly, for consumers, it can be confusing with all the different packaging labels, and we try to work hard on addressing that with our outreach. There are challenges with organics, with participation, and again, with contamination. Again, we need low contamination in order to create the highest quality compost. Overages can be a challenge. They result in spillage and litter, and that litter can clog the storm drains, for example. And then, of course, there's abandoned waste, which is also known as illegal dumping, and that can create a blight in the communities. So we've got the expiring agreement, we've got challenges, and as Jeff mentioned, there's new legislation with SB 1383, and these are all kind of coming together at the same time. So we want to look at ways that waste management can assist. Looking at SB 1383, the short-lived climate pollutants, this presentation is not going to cover everything in that Senate bill, but we're going to look at a couple things here where specifically waste management has some solutions. So first, some of the regulations, they're going to be requiring that jurisdictions provide organic collections to all residents and businesses, to conduct education and outreach, and it'll be very important to also monitor and provide notifications for contamination. And waste management does have a technology called Smart Truck technology, which is a camera system that can really assist with monitoring of the contamination, and I'll be going into that in more detail. Secondly, another important component of SB 1383 is reducing methane emissions. And that can be done by diverting organic waste that is headed to the landfill and keeping it out of the landfill. And we have a solution for that, which is a recovery process. And as Hayward looks at extending the franchise agreement, that is something else that could be given consideration, and I'll be going into that in more detail. So first, the Smart Truck technology. As I mentioned earlier, waste management Smart Truck technology is a camera system. It is currently installed on trucks in Hayward that are servicing commercial accounts, for example, and we use it for overage. And what we would like to propose is extending that so that it covers contamination as well. The Smart Truck technology does meet the SB 1383 requirements for auditing materials, so that's really important. So the camera system can audit and look at that material, and then there's an educational component because let's say a letter or an email goes back to that specific customer and it can say, hey, there was a television set in your green waste, that's contamination. So instead of just a general message, you're being very specific to the generator and what that item of contamination was. The way that Smart Truck works optimally is with a system of warning and surcharges. So for example, if a customer is contaminating, they get a message, they get another message with the warning. But if there's no behavior change, then our recommendation is to have surcharges to help provide a little bit of incentive there. Then the Smart Truck technology also can help with litter abatement. We use it currently for overages. It can provide service verification, repair, corrections, things like that. And in the next few slides, I'm going to show you some pictures and additional information. So how does this work? Well, it's linked to every customer location. So as a truck is going up to service a location, there's a lift of the container, and the lift of the container starts at the video camera, and we can see the contents of the material spilling out of the container into the hopper of the truck. And this is pretty significant to really see if there's contamination. There certainly are other ways to audit material. You could hire people to walk around and lift lids. That's not very efficient, and lifting a lid only really shows you what's at the top of the container. So this, it makes it easy, it's efficient. We have, the equipment on the truck, and you see what's going in there. It's also really great because, again, it gives that direct feedback to the customer. So after the video is taken, images are audited. Again, we have an audit team already, since we use this for overage, and we do have some areas that are using it for contamination. After the auditor reviews and identifies its accuracy, then a notification is sent to the customer, again, with a photo or a video and specific information, which can really help with behavior change. So this slide gives you an idea of some of the images. On the left, this is a video shot. So if you can envision that a container, this is a green waste organics collection, it's being dumped into the hopper of a truck. And as the material is spilling out, there is a plastic chair there that is definitely not going to be compostable. So that would be a notification to the customer. And on the right, you can see an example of a container overage. This slide shows examples of communication. On the left, there's a letter that would obviously show a still image of contamination back to the customer. And then it could also be done as an email communication where someone could actually see a video link. On the right is just an example of a sorting guide. We do a lot of outreach materials. So we do brochures, there are bill inserts, there are website updates. So that is just an example of one of our sorting guide images. This here is going to be the end of the section on Smart Truck. And next I'm going to move into a material recovery facility, and we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end here. So this next slide, there's a lot going on here. So bear with me while I explain some of the acronyms and whatnot. I mentioned earlier that with 1383, one of the objectives was to reduce methane emissions and to divert organics from going into the landfill. So we have worked with the city of Oakland to build an organic material recovery facility, which we call the OMER for short. And this has been constructed at our Davis Street complex, which is in San Leandro. And this OMER, which is a facility and a building in and of itself, is going to work in conjunction with an adjacent building. It'll be a composting facility, which we call the OMCF, or Organic Material Composting Facility. That second building is still under construction. So the picture on the right is the OMER. So what does that do? It is the first of a kind facility in North America, and it's designed to recover organic material such as food scraps and yard waste that have been put into that landfill stream. So it's a second chance. The material designated for the landfill goes through the OMER. It's extracting organic material. When the composting facility is completed, that organic material will go to the composting facility to be turned into compost. It's just still under construction. What we also see is by running the material through here, it's capturing stray recyclables, and then those recyclables can be baled and sold. So it's really creating more diversion. It's very important to emphasize that this facility, it augments but does not replace sole source separation. So just to add a little clarity there, residents and businesses still generally have 3 streams of collection. Landfill stream, there's our organics or green waste, and then there's recyclables. And we really want generators to continue sorting. That doesn't go away, and this doesn't change that. This, again, working in conjunction with Oakland, is just taking a quite frankly, a pragmatic approach to the fact that even when people have 3 streams for collection, that organic material and recyclable material that could be diverted are still ending up in the trash stream. So it's a second screening there. So the OMER facility will work in conjunction with the composting facility. So that composting facility that will be in the building next door is expected to come online in Q1 of 2021. And once that building is completed, as though the organic materials are extracted, they will go to the other building and be turned into compost. So how does all of this sort of impact Hayward? Well, that first shift, and as I mentioned, is going to go to the city of Oakland because this was built with them and for them. But we anticipate down the road having capacity for a second shift. So as we look at the franchise agreement and extending it, this is an option for Hayward to consider having some or all of Hayward's material to also run through this processing. Next, I'm going to move into clean and green community. So it's important, I think, to really recognize that waste management has a lot of facilities in Alameda County, and this is unique, and it really shows the both the investment and the foresight of waste management for Alameda. A lot of times people are just notice, hey, great, my cans got picked up, and that's they're not really thinking about what's happening before or after that process. So we have our hauling district at 98th Avenue in Oakland, and that is where our fleet is and where those trucks launch every morning to go out into the community. And it's great that that's a local location. The 98th Avenue office in Oakland is very close to the San Leandro border. So just down the street in San Leandro, we have our Davis Street complex. And it really is quite the complex because there's recycling processing, there's a transfer station. I just mentioned the new OMERF that's been built there, and we're building another composting facility there. So it's pretty impressive. And then also in Alameda, we have we have the Altamont facility. So that landfill there, and there's also a state-of-the-art composting facility, which I'll be showing on the next slide. In terms of other innovations and facilities, at the Davis Street complex, we are sorting recyclables there, but we're looking at making additional investments in that equipment for what we call MRF of the future. I've already described that we have the organic material recovery facility that's in the commissioning phase with Oakland, and we're coming close to finishing up the composting facility there. And we've also added solar panels to both our Davis Street facility and the hauling district facility at 98th Avenue. On the right, you can see a picture of the Altamont composting facility. We call it the Altamont CASP, which is a covered aerated static pile, which is the process of composting. That opened in April of 2018, and it is the only facility in Alameda County for processing residential green waste mixed with food waste. Looking at some of the services that we have in the current agreement that council may consider for expansion or changes. We have abandoned waste collection. Right now, we do up to 6 per week. We service public litter receptacles for up to 400 of those receptacles. We have a bulky program, and for single family curbside collection, that's 2 times a year currently, and for multifamilies, property managers or owners can arrange that for their complexes. We provide excess waste vouchers, which allow residents to bring excess waste to Davis Street free of charge. We also do public education and outreach. There's a recycling coordinator for Hayward. As I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of educational communications with sorting guides and bill inserts. We work closely with the Hayward Chamber of Commerce and always enjoy participating in street parties and other activities, tabling events in Hayward. Unfortunately, those were canceled this summer, but we have participated previously and really do enjoy being out with the community to provide that additional education. On this slide here, I want to talk a little bit about our fleet of trucks, and for that, I am going to pass this over to Todd Ninehouse.
Good evening, everyone. So for decades, Waste Management has been a pioneer in the use of alternative fuels and advanced transportation technologies to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions in our operations, including our fleet. So in Hayward, we run all of our frontline collection vehicles on natural gas and have a state-of-the-art facility at the Altamont landfill that converts methane to natural gas, which fuels our transfer fleet as well as some of our collection vehicles at WEMAC. Waste Management continues to look into the development of technologies to move towards the lowest emission impact possible. We are currently testing electric vehicle manufactured by Peterbilt, which started in September 2020 at one of our operations in Southern California, and have 2 additional pilots planned for the end of 2020 and early 2021 with 2 additional manufacturers. So we're looking, to continue to look at what we can do with the new developments coming online to continue to improve our fleet. And with that, we'll turn it back to you, Virginia.
Great, thank you, Todd. So kind of rounding this out, again, would really like to express how much we appreciate working with Hayward, and we do hope to continue the partnership. Potentially, we could start a new term on March 1st of 2022, if that were of interest to the council, and really looking, again, to get your feedback on what to include and the length of that new partnership and term. Potentially that could be 10 years with a 3-year extension or 7 years with a 3-year extension. So I know that there was threw a lot at you probably pretty quickly here. So I'm going to pause for questions and feedback, and I'm happy to scroll back to any slides that you would like to look at again. And as Jeff introduced, there are several of us here from different departments, and we hope to answer all your questions. And if you give us a stumper, we will look into it and get back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. So I'm going to go ahead and open up public comments on this, and then I'll come around back to the committee members. So if anybody, any of our public attendees want to speak on this item, now's the time to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I see Jillian Buckholtz, so can we unmute her?
Yes. Jillian, you've been unmuted.
And you'll need to unmute yourself as well.
I think I'm
There we go. Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the presentation. This is really exciting. I have a question about scales on the trucks. You mentioned the videos, but do you have the technology for weighing the dumpsters that are being tipped versus just the sort of marking a tip as the full weight of the dumpster when they're picked up?
So Jillian, I think I can answer that one. Brad, see it here for you. Yeah, there are optional technologies that we could put on those trucks. I know when we were working with potential education customer, that was a request. Those scales were actually, obviously the cost of those scales were built into that proposal as an opportunity for that. But the technology is still, I don't want to say in its infancy, but it's definitely technology that's evolving and constantly looking for the reporting capabilities to improve. But it is one option that is available.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Jillian. Anyone else? Not seeing any other hands. So, all right, so I'll go ahead and close public comment and invite my colleagues to weigh in if either of you wants to. Go ahead, Francisco. I see your actual hand.
Really? Let's see. I have 2 quick questions, really, and then the others are mainly comments. How are we doing with talks with HUSD? I know we're trying to do some kind of a partnership so that large corporation. Any thoughts on that?
So we have started talking with staff from Hayward Unified, and actually one of their staff is listening in right now. So yeah, we're going to continue to work with them and see if we can find a way to include them in the contract. Okay, all right. We kind of felt that it would be better that way. Let's see.
I don't know if it's too late, but perhaps we could work also talking with Hart, but I don't know if it's too late at the moment. Let's see, in these COVID times, educating our residents, how will that be done? Something different, different approach? Any thoughts?
Virginia, do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, so it's definitely more challenging with residents. With our recycling coordinator on our team, the primary focus has always been with multifamilies and also commercial properties, because you can work with, let's say, a restaurant manager and then communicate information to the staff about sorting. And with multifamilies, we often work with the property managers to set up trainings for the tenants. So that has been the primary strategy with those groups. And while we are not doing trainings in person, we are still doing phone calls, emails, video, dropping off kitchen pails and whatnot. The main way we've worked with single family in the past has been through the street parties and those sorts of communications. And with COVID taking place, that is definitely more challenging.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And then, of course, you mentioned the electric trucks. Something started back in September of this year. When do you think we'll see some trucks out on our streets, or is that too far from now? So a year, 6 months? Do we have an idea on that?
Yeah, so the electric trucks are very new. I mean, we've seen electric vehicles come into play with the smaller vehicles. As you move into the trash trucks, there definitely becomes a challenge with the size and weight of the truck, and then increasing the number of batteries that are needed to move that truck. So we do have this first pilot that just started in September, and as I said, we have 2 others in our corporation that will be starting here by early next year. As far as when I talked to our corporate fleet director, he said looking at a pilot is a possibility when we're talking about a whole fleet of electric vehicles, probably 5 years before we're at that state where that's ready to go. As far as seeing a full fleet of collection vehicles. We do have the ability right now for, some of the smaller duty trucks, such as the bulky collection flatbeds, the container delivery trucks, because they're not as large and drawn up as the same amount of weight and power needed for those trucks. But like I said, we just started this with some of the major truck manufacturers. Peterbilt being the first one just in September. So we're in the very early stages of piloting these.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Let's see, I have 3 goods. Let's see, good on the smart truck technology. And as a matter of fact, it works because wife and I received a love letter from Waste Management that we owed you more money because we were over, we had too much garbage on our garbage can. So it does work. Electric vehicles is good. Please go on that. Let's see. So I do support the negotiations. So I guess this is for Mr. Amiri. Amiri, how are negotiations going? Are we going in the right direction on these, or is it too early to ask that?
Yes, Council Members Armenia, this is Alex. We have had 3 sessions so far. It's been productive. We are talking, one of the things that we have talked about is electric vehicle. We were very much interested in, implementing it. But as you heard, the technology may not be ready, at least not in the first couple of years, but we are working with that. This time, the number of issues that we have are not as challenging and as broad as the last time when we negotiated 5 years ago or so. But we still have some issues to talk about, including new legislations that we have to make sure that we are going to abide by and implement. So negotiations so far have been very good. We are dealing with a very, very competent and good team on the waste management side. And we draw upon many, many years, many decades of working relationship with them. So it's going well so far.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. I mean, since 1975 or so, more or less. And congratulations, Waste Management, on the OMRF. So thank you very much, and I expect to hear good news. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Virginia, and thank you the rest of the Waste Management team.
Thank you, Francisco. Councilmember Marquez, do you want to jump in?
Yes, thank you. So remind me, this new legislation, is this the one also where we're going to have to change the color and type of containers we're using? Is that part of 1383 as well?
Correct, but there is a timeline to that, but it is part of the legislation.
Okay, so I'm definitely in support of exploring using the new facility to do an additional layer of sorting. However, I'm just a little bit apprehensive of the cost because I have a long wish list of things I'd like to see done. I'm just trying to figure out what do we prioritize over the other. And it seems like compliance with 1383 is going to be key. But a couple of things that I'm looking for is additional trash cans throughout the community. I know that the illegal dumping 6 times a week was a part of the agreement. I know there's been several instances where we haven't seen that actually happen. So that's going to be really, really important moving forward that we do honor that. And I'd like to see that potentially increased. But what I'm hearing the most from the community is just concerns about illegal dumping and littering. So those are the areas that I'd like to see us explore. Also appreciate the educational piece. If there's any way we could use more of our technology, Channel 15, the leaflet newsletter, just getting YouTube clips out to the community, encouraging members to be more knowledgeable about proper sorting. I'm definitely open to the cameras. I'm just a little bit reluctant in the sense that I've heard some business owners state that some of the items that are in their garbage cans aren't put in there by themselves. I know a lot of them have to lock up. So I'm just wondering how that's going to translate over to the residential community. I know in my neighborhood, there are people out every Tuesday on my garbage pickup day or the night before looking for recyclables. So I'm also apprehensive of people throwing garbage that doesn't belong to them in other people's containers. So if staff has any comments or experience on how that's kind of played out with the residential side versus commercial side of waste management clients and how you kind of manage that. I know that you give a warning letter, but what assurances do we have that people aren't going to be fined for items that don't necessarily belong to them being put into their containers?
So I'd say that we will continue to work with businesses. We've experienced this problem in the past, and we always try to work with a business owner to either put a lock on the bin itself or put the bin inside a secure location. Those are really the best ways to prevent that kind of unauthorized deposits of trash in those containers.
Okay. And then in terms of expanding the contract, I know we mentioned HUSD, but do we have confirmation? I believe CSU East Bay is using waste management, but do we have confirmation of that? Is that accurate?
Yes, they are using waste management.
Okay. And then what about HARD? Do we know HARD and Chabot's status, who they're under contract with?
Yeah, they're using waste management as well. Yeah, so it's just a matter of trying to sync up all of the services that are offered.
Okay, so right now, go ahead.
Councilmember Marquez, I just wanted to mention that when it comes to HARD, because they are a multi-jurisdictional entity, it may be a little bit more difficult to coordinate with them through our contract because they serve areas outside of Hayward, and they have issues there.
Okay.
But that's not the case with HUSD or the Hayward campus or Chabot College.
Got it. Good to know. And those discussions, they're part of these discussions as well in terms of looking at economies of scale, if it makes sense too.
We are talking to them.
Okay.
When it comes to the school district, the fact is that their contract may not be really large in terms of dollar amount, but it is very important for us to have the same contract because of similarities between, the pickup devices and the educational pieces, the carts, what to put in which cart, and so on and so forth. So it's important to do that, and then students can be educated in school and then go home and then have the same kind of services at home and when they are in school.
Great, thank you. And then in terms of the sorting, the new facility that's under construction, I know the bulk of it is obviously going to go to the city of Oakland, but what is, Virginia, what did you have in mind in terms of availability for the city of Hayward? Would that be 1-2 days of sorting, or what would that look like?
We anticipate that in a second shift that you could put all of the material running through there. I mean, so no one has committed, it's all brand new basically. So it would just be a matter of, Hayward deciding if they want to do just the commercial stream or a residential stream or everything. But right now, since we don't even have the second shift, since it's still being built, there's capacity to do all of Hayward's material if that was the choice.
Okay. So I'm willing to explore that. Of course, it's not going to come down to the cost, but I think it makes sense for us to look into having it as an option. I'm just, like I said, it sounds like there's a lot of innovation, a lot of technology. We need it to be compliance, but I'm very, very apprehensive about the cost going up too much more than what it already is. So
Right.
Okay, thank you. Does staff need any other specific questions to be answered or direction at this time?
No, I just wanted to mention, council member, that regarding trash cans, we have authorization for 400 right now. We are using about 290. We have a dozen that or more that is going to be placed at the new plaza and around the library. So that is going to push it just above 300 usage. We are talking about increasing the number above the 400 for sure, but we haven't, we would like to receive some direction as to what you think is the appropriate number, keeping in mind that purchase of these devices costs money. They are like $3,000 to $4,000 a pair. And if we wanted to add some, we would add to the cost. As far as the pickup of unauthorized dumping of garbage goes, we are talking to Waste Management regarding increasing that from 6 to a different number. We would appreciate guidance from you. And those are the items I wanted to cover.
Okay, so we're at 250 right now with
290.
290, and
Yes.
our contract is up to 400.
Correct.
Okay. I would like to see it increased if we could at least. I know it's all budgetary, but 20, 25 per fiscal year, make it a goal until we get to the 400. I don't know exactly what's budgeted for this, but that would come out of the CIP, correct?
The purchase of the, yes.
Yeah, so I'd like to see some numbers in terms of doing it in sets of 20, 20, 25, what that would look like. And
so to be clear, as part of the new contract, we can negotiate the purchase of those containers and put them in the rates. Of course, there's an impact on the rates, but we can negotiate it so that the city doesn't have to front the money for purchase of those containers.
Yeah, I definitely want to see us pursue that because we need more throughout the community. And then in regard to the bulky pickup, I would say at least 10 per week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll be brief because this went way longer than it should have, and we started late. I basically agree with my colleagues. I do see, as Alex said, I see this as sort of an incremental change kind of contract, not a major drastic rewrite, because I think the service we're getting now is pretty good. There are things that can be better. We could, get more cans out there for sure. And, it sort of bothers me that we've been paying for 7 years for 400 cans and not using them all. So maybe there's a way to align the number of cans we're paying for with the number that we have out there a little bit more intelligently. And I'll just provide that as direction to staff. And the sorting would be really good. I mean, it would be expensive, I'm sure. And so we'd have to look at the cost, but, you know, expecting all of our residences and businesses to sort exactly right 100% of the time is just, you know, it's just incredibly unrealistic. And so we're going to have to build up our ability to sort not just the trash, but even the recyclables. I mean, I guess that's probably being done. I guess it would have to be being done right now. So something on that side would be worth looking into. And then it's just a matter of how much does it cost, and are we willing to bite that bullet now? So with that, any other final comments before we move on? Oh, I'm sorry. And then the length of the contract, I'm flexible. I mean, I think things are going well. So a 7 or 10 years, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I guess I would just hate to, you know, have a 10-year contract that locks us into expenses that we don't end up using for many of those years again, like the trash cans, the public trash cans. So that's something for staff to, I think, consider as we're considering the length of the contract.
That,
you know,
and also new technologies that may come up in, 5-7 years.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if it's possible to, I don't know what that exactly looks like. I mean, I wouldn't want to do a short-term contract just so we have that maximum flexibility, but maybe there's a way to build a little bit of flexibility into a longer-term contract.
Right.
More work, I realize, a lot of crystal ball gazing required, but something to think about. And then we'll just have to see what comes back for in terms of details at a later date. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's still WMAC in my head, but I guess WEMAC. I can try to get used to that. So thank you for being here. And with that, we'll move on to the next item.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And that is a discussion about possibly limiting the number of service stations, gas stations selling fossil fuels. And can I hand this over directly to Eric for the staff presentation?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Eric? Eric, are you on
Okay,
mute?
yeah, sorry. I had,
okay.
Good evening. So in response to a request from the committee, staff is providing this report on possible approaches to limiting the development of new fossil fuel infrastructure with respect to service stations. This report, specifically this report considers possible amendments to the zoning ordinance to prohibit development of new service stations and prevent expansion of existing service stations that sell fossil fuel. So according to Hayward's 2018 greenhouse gas emission inventory, transportation is the largest sector with more than 60% of total emissions coming from passenger and commercial vehicles. Of that, about 56% comes from passenger vehicles. And in June this year, Council adopted new greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, including a goal to reduce emissions 55% below 2005 levels by 2030, and an intention to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045. The state of California has a goal of having 5 million zero emission vehicles on the road by 2030. Current sales of EVs make up about 10% of all vehicle sales in California. By 2025, EVs are expected to make up about 30% of all vehicle sales. And by 2028, EVs are projected to be about 46% of all vehicle sales in California. In September this year, to reduce statewide emissions, Governor Newsom signed an executive order requiring that by 2035, all new vehicles sold in California must be zero emission vehicles. And it remains to be seen if there's going to be any legal challenges, but that could affect the success of this order. Some cities are exploring potential restrictions on new gas stations Menlo Park adopted a new climate action plan this year. It calls for establishing a goal to reduce gasoline sales by 10% per year. The city of Petaluma had a moratorium in place, but has since expired. The city of Baltimore in Maryland is considering an ordinance that would prohibit new gas stations within the city. And a new collaboration between the joint venture Silicon Valley and a nonprofit called Cultura is, the initiative is called the Beyond Gasoline Initiative. And they're looking at this being similar to the effort to eliminate natural gas from new construction. The goal of this initiative is to end gasoline use in Silicon Valley promptly, equitably, and smoothly. And they intend to achieve this by forming partnerships with cities to adopt gasoline reduction measures such as public fleet electrification, vendor requirements, and citywide gasoline sales reduction goals. There are 46 gas stations located throughout Hayward. The Costco at A and Hathaway has requested to add a service station, and that will be considered by council tomorrow evening. Staff is also reviewing an application from the existing Costco service station on Hesperian to add more dispensers. So some service stations are allowed in a variety of commercial and industrial zoning districts, some with a conditional use permit and sometimes with an administrative use permit. This is some of the language from the general commercial zoning district where it requires a conditional use permit for a automobile service station. So restrictions on the development of new gas stations and or expansion of existing gas stations may require an amendment to several sections of the zoning ordinance, as well as the Mission Boulevard Code. In lieu of zoning ordinance amendments, council could adopt a resolution, but it would be non-binding. And when applications are presented to the Planning Commission and City Council, those decisions are based on required findings. So to make the policy binding, it would require amendments to the zoning ordinance. Preparation of zoning ordinance amendments could take a significant amount of staff time, and this is a project that is not included in the council adopted strategic roadmap. If the committee is interested in pursuing the ordinance amendments, staff would recommend presenting this project to the full council when revisions to the roadmap are considered in early 2021. Or if the committee would prefer a resolution, this could also be presented to council early next year. And that concludes my presentation.
Can't hear you, Al.
You're mute, Al.
Sorry, thank you. My bad. So thank you, Eric, for that quick presentation. I'm going to go right to public comment. Raise your hand, please, if you want to speak. And I see that Kim Huggett has raised his hand. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Kim.
Okay, thank you for hearing me this evening. Appreciate it. I guess what I'm thinking is that it's kind of a traditional chamber type response is that you already have the zoning ordinance. You already have a conditional use permit process that acts as a control on these. One of the things that concerns me especially is Hayward's role as a logistics center and access to fueling stations for that reason. Some of our big trucking companies like Roadway Trucking, Double D Trucking, Mag Trucking, or your consideration of potentially 200 Amazon vans driving up and down Whitten. The Dermody projects properties project for a logistics center at Berkeley Farms as a possibility. So my concern is that that we not put limits on fueling stations, and I kind of go back and forth on what is a gas station if it's also a convenience store, a place where you fill up on propane, a place where you buy balloons or flowers or food trucks. But my concern principally is to preserve access as long as we still have the internal combustion engine for people who are able to or who need gas, and let the free market and the use permit process determine where it's appropriate that they go. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. I don't see any other hands up. Last chance. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close public comment, and I'm going to speak first on this one because I think that the solution here is the simplest solution is not changes to the zoning ordinance and all the staff effort and time involved, which would create, sort of potentially a hard prohibition. I think that, what's needed or what I would advocate for is just a simple resolution, as Eric pointed out, that a sort of a sense of the council sort of resolution that says, in the interest of moving away from, fossil fuels over time, that the council has a preference not to, I'm not saying this exactly right, but a preference not to approve new fossil fuel fueling stations.
Yes.
And it could include, a recommendation, or it could include advice to staff that when an AUP is possible, that it should probably be elevated to the Planning Commission anyway. It might include direction to staff to bring any potential new fueling stations to the Economic Development Committee for a concept review early on. And I think we know that these stations are going to be controversial. And my goal here is, I'm the one who asked to put this on here initially. My goal was not to ban them necessarily. My goal is to prevent business owners from wasting time going down a path over a couple years and tens of thousands of dollars and staff time as well that ends up resulting in a no. Right? I'd rather try to provide some guidance up front, and a sort of a warning that says, look, this is not an automatic. Just beware that approving a new station, a new gas station is going to run into some resistance potentially. Bring them to the Economic Development Committee to get some early feedback, and hopefully save everyone some time and money to get a sense of where things stand before they go down that path. So that's kind of the goal that I have in mind. I think a resolution achieves that. A few years into the future, we might want to codify some of those things, the next time we do a zone change, but that doesn't have to happen right away. Just trying to provide some guidance. Alex, you look like you wanted to respond to that.
I just wanted to say I appreciate your comments. They are right on. The fact is that in the past 10 years, we have had only one new gas station, that was Costco, and now we have another application. Looking at the list of 46 gas stations, I think 15 of them may be mom and pop gas stations that have the potential with changing technologies and such, and because of limitation of their space, that they are more likely not to be around in 10, 20 years, as opposed to adding new gas stations. So what you mentioned is right on, and it is, I think, a very good approach.
Appreciate that. So, Councilmember Marquez or Zermeño? Elisa, go ahead.
Thank you. So thank you for the presentation, Eric. Can you just clarify for me, at what point is an application considered administratively approved versus going up to Planning Commission? What distinguishes that difference?
So an administrative use permit can be approved by the planning director. But I'd say that for the more significant projects or controversial projects, they will be referred to the Planning Commission. and then sometimes can go all the way to the city council as well.
Okay, so I agree with Councilmember Mendel that I would prefer to stop administrative approvals. I think it should be vetted through Economic Development Committee as well as Planning Commission. I think that's a good enough safeguard. So I would support the resolution as long as those two criteria are specifically outlined in the resolution. And I appreciate staff taking this on. I know it was short notice, so thank you for the good work.
Thank you, Councilmember Marquez. Councilmember Zermanio, go ahead.
And then, yes, thank you, Eric. Thank you for the good comments, Councilmember Mendel and also Alex. One of the gas stations that we have actually has hydrogen, and that's on 8th Street. So it's kind of neat. And then I believe that some of the gas stations that we have eventually will start having some of the electrical powering stations of sorts. I also do agree that we probably will not have any more new gas stations. I mean, 2 applications for a gas station in 11 years, and both of them from Costco. I don't think we'll probably have any more. Whether mom and pops go out of business, somebody else will buy them and start them all over again. The idea of telling folks, listen, you may run into some obstacles for this new gas station, don't spend your money yet, go to the Economic Development Division, speak to Paul and see what the idea is. I really don't want to see any more. 46 in my mind is fine, but then of course I did hear Kim Huggett saying that we may have more need of it in the industrial sectors, but I think that we're fine. But we want to not create work for the staff at the moment, so I think that the resolution is a good idea, just so that people know that the climate at the moment is no more gasoline stations, but not necessarily a prohibition, just simply you may run into some obstacles. So go talk to the economic director, and then maybe you have to go and then decide from that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. So a question to Alex. This is listed as an action item. It sounds like we are unanimously in agreement here. So do you need a formal vote, or is the direction sufficient?
We don't. Direction is sufficient. We can summarize the conversation, the discussion in our report to council.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Then unless somebody has a final comment, we'll be moving on. Don't see anyone. So thank you all. Appreciate that we were able to handle that quickly. So the next item is the Advanced Metering Infrastructure, the AMI Customer Portal Pilot Program. And Kate Byrne will be doing the presentation.
Correct.
Hello, let me just share my screen for a moment.
We can see it.
Okay, great.
If you maximize it. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So good afternoon, all. Today I'll be providing a brief update on the AMI Customer Portal Pilot Program. And to summarize, for those of you not familiar with the program, the city is currently preparing to launch an online software through which Hayward water customers will be able to log in and view details about their account, like bill amounts and hourly water consumption. And we're currently piloting 2 different online portal platforms, and we'll be using feedback gained during this pilot program to determine which platform, if either, to proceed with for citywide implementation. The last time we discussed this program with the committee was in March, at which point we were in the early stages of securing our pilot participants. At that time, we also recommended that the pilot program be implemented with 2 vendors, which were identified via a competitive RFP process. Over the last 6 months, staff have worked with both those vendors to integrate all of our customers' billing data and consumption data. And after concluding the integration phase, we were able to officially launch the pilot program to our participating customers in the last week of October. So before diving into the details of the pilot program and what each platform has to offer, I wanted to quickly refresh on what the city's AMI system is and what it has to do with a customer portal. So AMI stands for Advanced Metering Infrastructure, and AMI meters differ from traditional water meters in that they do not have to be manually read by staff of a water utility. Instead, the meter reads can be transmitted electronically. The city recently finished installing AMI-equipped meters at all 36,000 endpoints throughout the city, and the meter reads generated by these meters are periodically collected via 28 data collection units, and the DCUs then transmit those meter reads to one online portal so that the customers can view their water usage and take advantage of other tools related to their accounts. This portal is what staff are currently working to implement. So the two vendors we are working with to conduct our pilot program are Aquahawk and WaterSmart. As I mentioned previously, these vendors have ingested all of our customers' billing and consumption data, and portals have also been made available to our pilot group. This group will have access to both pilot platforms until late February, and that pilot group consists of about 3 distinct subgroups. There are about 100 pilot customers which signed up to participate earlier in the year, and each pilot customer only has access to their specific accounts information. We will soon also be inviting the mayor and council to create accounts and participate if they're interested. And the third subgroup is about 18 or so staff across utilities, revenue, and IT work groups. Staff will have access to all customer information throughout the city, just as they would during full citywide rollout. We'll be collecting periodic feedback from all 3 groups over the course of the 4-month pilot period. And this feedback is what will be used to inform our recommendation to the committee and ultimately to council regarding which vendor to proceed with long-term, if either. So I'm going to spend the remainder of the presentation walking you through both portals, starting alphabetically with Aquahawk. And this splash page is the first thing that customers see when they visit our unique Aquahawk hosted URL. They register for their account simply by clicking on the green button that my cursor is hovering over right now. Yeah. And all they have to do is produce their contact information and their account number and customer number in order to get registered. So this next view is what an account dashboard would look like, through which customers can see where they are in their current billing period, in this case, day 14 of 60. They can see their most recent statement balance, which in this case was $465. They can see Aquahawk's projection of what their bill will be come the end of this billing period, which is about $185. And you can see it right here where my cursor is. And they can also see their estimated bill amount, or the bill amount they've incurred to date based on the consumption they've experienced over the last 14 days. In this case, that's about $95. So both the estimated and projected bill values featured here include everything that would show up on the customer bill. So that includes sewer fees, service fees, excise tax, etc. And then down at the bottom here, you can see also the consumption that those estimated bill numbers are based off of. So in this case, this customer has so far used 4.8 CCF in the first 14 days of their billing period. And then down in the bottom half of the portal view, customers can see their consumption breakdown, which they can change to be an hourly, monthly, or in this case, daily view. If they hover over a certain bar, they can see additional detail about the usage in that particular period. And in this example, I hovered over a bar in which the usage spiked to get a little bit more info. And as you can see here, it reports that they used about 2.8 CCF in that single day on October 17th. This usage spike also caught Aquahawk's eye and triggered an unusual usage notice, which you can see in the upper right-hand kind of grayed out bar here. So if the unusual usage had persisted, this notice would be more pronounced, but because it appears to have been resolved, it looks like a bit of an outlying event because the usage dropped for the remaining days. So the reason that's grayed out is because it's considered resolved by Aquahawk. The customers can adjust what consumption amounts trigger these notices by hitting the My Thresholds button, which I will show you right now. So on the right hand of the screen, you can see what happens if you hit the My Thresholds button. And as you can see here, they can request to be alerted either by a bill amount criteria or by a consumption amount criteria, or both. And it's important to note that these thresholds are similar but distinct to what leak alerts are, which is another very important feature of this platform. So when an account shows symptoms of a leak, which would be triggered by events such as continuous use over an extended period of time, then the customer is sent a notice unless they've actively opted to not receive that notice. And this notice will specifically inform them that they are suspected to have a leak, and will also include tips for how to identify and resolve that leak. And customers interested in doing any additional analysis of their consumption can take advantage of the export button, which I feature on the left-hand side of the screen. So basically, by hitting this export button, customers can pick a range of time that they want to pull consumption data from, and they'll be able to download it as a CSV, which can easily be converted into an Excel document, and they can do some additional analysis if they desire to do that. So moving along to the WaterSmart platform, this is the splash page that customers would see on our unique WaterSmart hosted URL. Customers simply need to enter their account number, customer number, and their zip code in order to be paired with their portal account. And from the dashboard view, customers can see their most recent bill amount, similar to Aquahawk. And down below, they can also see how their most recent bill amount compares to previous billings. And additionally, to the right here, they can see the gallon per day breakdown based on their most recent billing period. And if you scroll down into the bottom half of their dashboard page, they can see their water score, which is this thing over on the left-hand side. And this basically shows how their consumption compares to accounts of a similar household size. And this is specifically a single-family residential tool. So essentially, to improve accuracy, customers have the ability to log on and adjust the number of people in their household and any other efficiency measures that they've taken so that they're more accurately compared to households that are truly similar to theirs. But this score basically just helps them understand where they fit in compared to similar households. And then to the right of that is the recommended actions tile. This one just features a single possible action that a customer could take to cut down on their water use. And there's more actions that I'll get to later on. And in the I want to tile down below, there's even more tools that customers can explore. And I particularly want to call your attention to the leak checker feature. Basically, customers can click through different common household leak causes, as well as troubleshoot how to fix those. And I will take this opportunity to segue into the leak alerting functionality. So like Aquahawk, customers with WaterSmart will also be essentially auto-notified if they show symptoms of a leak, though they also can take steps to opt out of that notification if they want to. And in addition to the leak alerting, like Aquahawk, customers also have the ability to set bill and consumption thresholds by which they would receive, additional notifications if they exceeded that threshold. They simply need to click the Set Alerts button, and there's a few other opportunities for them to set those thresholds throughout the platform. So next is the Billing tab on the WaterSmart platform. And in this view, they can again see, their most recent bill amount as well as their past bill amounts. And if they were to click on the Forecast button on the left-hand side here, similar to Aquahawk, they would be able to see WaterSmart's estimation of what their total consumption is going to be at the end of this billing period and what billing tier that might trigger. If they click on the Track tab, again, similar to Aquahawk, they can see the breakdown of their consumption. And if they hover over their consumption, They can see, you know, the details of that particular time period. And of course, they can see it in like a daily, weekly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly view, whatever they select up here. And finally, in the Take Action tab, customers can essentially find even more suggestions for cutting down on their water use and saving money. And in the Settings tab to the far right, they can adjust the settings of their customer account, and they have additional opportunity to set thresholds under that tab as well. So we'll be seeking feedback from our pilot participants across several key categories, and we'll be doing so through a series of surveys that I'm going to be distributing electronically every several weeks or so. And the major feedback categories are going to include ease of use, preferred layout, desired future features, and potential portal compatibility. And also from a staff perspective, we're very interested to know which portal best improves our day-to-day processes. As far as next step goes, we're going to be incorporating any feedback that the committee might have today and continue conducting the pilot program. We will also return to the committee in March to present on the responses we got from pilot participants. And at that time, we also hope to have a recommendation based on that feedback regarding which portal we're going to recommend proceeding with long term. Our final recommendation is simply that the committee reviews and provides comments on the report, and I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you, Kate. And I'm going to go ahead and open public comment. So if anyone wants to chime in, please raise your hand. Electronically, of course, can't see you. Okay, I don't see anyone chiming in, so I'll close public comment and invite my colleagues. Francisco, go ahead.
Kate, thank you very much. I really have no questions. I'm impressed with the two programs, actually. I'm impressed with your presentation, and I suppose that the final decision or after you poll everybody, you'll then decide as to the majority vote democratically, correct? Is that what I'm assuming?
Yes, basically.
Okay, so very good. It'll help us conserve water, especially the 5-minute shower. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm back. Al, you're muted.
Darn it. Well, we can hear you, so go ahead.
All right, I was going to refresh my cup of tea, but you guys are fast. So this looks exciting. I just want to be clear that both portals can be used from your phone, correct?
Yes, they can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was my only question, but it looks great. I think it'll definitely educate our residents on their water usage. So hopefully we'll see some decrease. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my wife signed up for it and was playing around with both applications the other day, and I will just say that Water Smart is in the lead at the moment, at least with her. But she said they were both pretty good. So
great, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I don't see any other hands going up. Let me just make sure here. Yep. So we will move on to the next item, if I can find it, which is the stop waste priorities for the next couple of years. And Nicole will be doing the presentation. So go ahead and kick off the topic, and then we'll have our comments.
Okay, so Stop Waste engages in the priority setting process every other year to inform their budget development, resource allocation, external fund seeking efforts, and program selection and design for a 2-year period. Stop Waste will seek adoption of a new set of 2-year priorities at their December meeting. Updated draft priorities that will be considered by the Stop Waste Board in December are not yet available, but staff has put together a list of potential priorities to review and get the committee's input on today. So as a reminder, Stop Waste is a joint powers agency governed by the Alameda County Waste Management Authority, WMA, the Alameda County Source Reduction and Recycling Board, and the Alameda County Energy Council. Councilmember Zermano is Hayward's representative, and Councilmember Lamnin is Hayward's alternate on all 3 boards. Stop Waste has previously had 2 sets of priorities, one for the WMA and Recycling Board and one set for the Energy Council. The City of Hayward has a history of working with Stop Waste and its member jurisdictions to accomplish a variety of programs targeted at reducing waste sent to the landfills and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So before we jump into what Hayward would like to see Stop Waste prioritize in the upcoming years, I'm going to quickly review the current priorities for 2018-2020 that were set by both the Energy Council and what was set by the WMA and Recycling Board. So looking at the Energy Council, their priorities for these past 2 years have focused on themes of building efficiency, electrification, grid solutions, member agency services, and zero net carbon. These program priorities have guided Stop Waste to secure grant funding and focus on program activities within each area. Looking at the WMA and Recycling Board's priorities for this same time period, they focused on the themes of waste prevention, organics, coordinating, collaborating, and leveraging the work of member agencies. To set the stage for the 2021 priority setting process and provide a framework for establishing an updated set of Stop Waste priorities, Stop Waste staff drafted a set of objectives for the Stop Waste Board to consider at its meeting in September. And so these objectives show the priorities will need to emphasize upstream systemic solutions, integrate racial and social equity, incorporate COVID-19 challenges, and inspire staff and member agencies. At their board meeting in September, there was limited discussion from the board members regarding the priority setting process. During that meeting, Stop Waste staff emphasized that much of the low-hanging fruit has been picked. And so a goal of these new priorities is to reimagine ways cities can divert waste and implement clean energy solutions. The next steps for Stop Waste are to continue discussions with Stop Waste staff, Stop Waste board members, and staff from member jurisdictions. These discussions have been taking place throughout October and continuing in November. So as I mentioned, updated draft priorities that will be considered by the board are not yet available, but based on discussions at recent staff level meetings, the WMA's Technical Advisory Committee and the Energy Council's Technical Advisory Group, there are some issues that will likely be presented to the board as potential priorities for the next 2 years. So potential items for discussion were ranked by staff based on alignment with city's goals and priorities. And I also want to note that this new set of priorities will be combined. So rather than having a separate set of priorities for the Energy Council and a separate set for the Waste Board, they will be intertwined. And this is an effort by Stop Waste to build more cohesion between the groups and project work. So the first items that you see on the screen right now are things that Stop Waste already has been prioritizing in programs that are beneficial to the City of Hayward to continue. That includes assistance with local, state, and federal legislation compliance, member agency services such as greenhouse gas emission inventory reporting and climate action planning, food waste reduction programs, electrification of buildings and vehicles, although Stop Waste currently focuses more on the building sector through Bay Run programs, and reimagining reduction of single-use packaging. Items on this screen are things that the city has not focused on or spent significant time on, but Stop Waste has listed as potential priorities for its future and the city could see being advantageous. And that includes building efficiency and embodied carbon, landfill obsolescence, carbon farming, community grant funding, and green business support. So staff would appreciate direction from the committee regarding the above ranking and if there should be additional topics to consider. And so just next steps is staff will review the committee's comments on Stop Waste priorities with the city's representative, Councilmember Zermanio, prior to the Stop Waste board meeting in December. So with that, I will conclude, and also in preparation for the discussion, I've listed the 11 priorities all on one screen.
I thought I was going to have to ask you to switch between those two slides. So thank you for having that, Nicole. That's very helpful. So let me jump to public comments, see if anybody wants to chime in before the committee members discuss this. Please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, so I will invite my colleagues to participate. You get a raise. Francisco, go ahead. As our stop waste representative, please do share your thoughts.
Yeah. The main thrust of everything is to have regional solutions, regional priorities. That's good. So in that sense, I think we're going the right direction. Clean energy solutions. I appreciate the 2020, the 21-23 priorities listed by our city staff, because then I can then go and make sure that stopwaste.org when we meet, because this is what we're going to be discussing, that we include all of these 11. I'm kind of sad that there's nothing in here about trees. So before the meeting started, I asked Nicole and Eric if there's anything that is regarding trees that can be included. So Eric's gonna do something, it's gonna research something, because I feel that trees can help reduce the waste that we're trying to reduce. But I don't know if I'm reaching for the stars on this. But these are excellent, because this is actually what we are looking for in our climate action plan. So Nicole, I have no questions for you. Alex and Eric, I'm very impressed with the presentation. And this is what I will work on when we meet at southwaste.org. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Francisco. Elisa, did you want to chime in?
Sure. So I appreciate the alignment. I think it'll allow for more continuity and actually delivering on these items. So that's good to hear. In terms of the ranking, it looks good. The only thing I would like to see move up, maybe more on top 4, is community outreach grants. I think it's really, really important that we educate the public. So as much additional support and information we could provide in that area, I think it's going to be key. Can you explain number 7 to me more? I'm not quite clear on that one.
It's basically the concept of getting rid of landfills and creating a more circular economy where we don't need them eventually. End goal.
End goal. So I would move that to the bottom, just because that's going to be very, very hard to achieve, but good to strive for. And then carbon farming, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
That is
planting trees.
Yeah, that is basically the concept of using farming and compost to sequester carbon emissions.
Okay.
But it requires long-term farming and planting and using. So it's not just like a quick little garden plot that like 2 years later is no longer there. It's really a long-term process to be able to sequester carbon.
Okay. Okay. So that one, again, I would kind of move more towards the bottom and move the other items up. And these are going to be decided, these are going to be shared in December. And when will the ultimate priority setting occur? At that meeting, or is that just the first phase of it? Okay. As long as we're aligning with our climate action plan, which all of these points are, I'm definitely in support of moving forward with our representative's ultimate recommendation. Councilmember Ceremonial, that's on you.
Thank you. So a quick question. Does the stop waste create the greenhouse gas estimates that we use for our annual or semi-annual, whatever the biannual process, or do we get those numbers from somewhere else?
They helped coordinate through EBU that whole process and tool, and now that EBU is no longer a thing, stop waste, jurisdictions have expressed interest with stop waste to continue that moving forward.
Okay. Okay. So I guess the big bit of input that I would have is to eliminate the Stop Waste Energy Council. I don't see the point for that anymore. We have East Bay Community Energy, which is going after, 6 and 7 and 8 figure grants for electric charging stations and building electrification and energy efficiency measures and all kinds of things. And they have control over, to a degree, control over the electricity that's going into all the homes and businesses, and it really makes sense for them to focus on that. And in my opinion, for Stop Waste to focus on stopping, physical waste, right? And sort of narrowing its focus. I have to admit, I've long felt that the Energy Council struck me as a strange thing to have in Stop Waste. But it's just becoming downright wasteful now. So I guess we could stop some waste by just having Stop Waste stop focusing on energy and duplicating effort. I do want to, we do need some help with the greenhouse gas estimates, and so that might be an exception. But items 4 and 6 in the list should just be gone. Let EBCE take the lead on those things, which makes a lot more sense. I agree with Councilmember Marquez that the landfill obsolescence should be moved down the list. We're not there yet. In fact, we're moving backwards there right now because we're not able to recycle a lot of materials now that the China sword policy is in place. And so I think that's probably too ambitious, number 7. Not really. I love trees, Francisco, and I want to see the city planting more, but I don't think that Stop Waste is the right agency to be focused on planting trees and carbon farming. I don't see how that necessarily fits with their mission of, managing the waste streams. It's an overreach, and I want folks to focus on what they're really good at. I would like to see Stop Waste focus on reducing single-use plastics across the board, whether it's plastic forks and lids or plastic packaging in the products that we buy. That stuff is just poisoning the planet, and they are the perfect agency to really lead in the effort to reduce single-use plastics. So I would make that number 1 or maybe number 2 on the list of focus items. And clean off some of the other energy and carbon farming type stuff that really doesn't belong there. Sorry to throw a little bit of a curveball there. I realize it's going to require some additional thought before you go back, Francisco, and to the staff team, but that's my input.
Great.
Anyone else want to chime in? Francisco, go ahead. No. Okay. All right. That was a thumbs up. All right. So thank you, Nicole. Good presentation. I appreciate it. And we will move on to the next item as soon as I figure out what that is.
Our agenda planning calendar.
Thank you. Yeah. So the future agenda items, and we have the list showing the sort of tentative schedule. Alex, did you want to, or anyone on staff want to weigh in on that before we take suggestions from my colleagues?
Just wanted to very quickly mention that we are going to bring the 3rd revision of municipal regional permit to you in January. That's MRP 3.0. We are also going to bring to you the 2019 GHG inventory that we didn't have the information before. And I'm going to bring an update of our 2020 urban water management plan to you. It will be an oral update because we are in the middle of preparing the report, and I won't have a whole lot of information to present at that time. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. My colleagues have any additions or changes? Go ahead, Francisco.
Let's see, Alex, I'm trying to see if we have a report maybe on gray water usage. How is that coming along?
We can schedule that and prepare a report for the committee.
Right, because that's a rather ambitious project, and we'll see how it's doing in our industrial areas. And I've been asked by a couple of folks on it. Thank you.
And that's gray water, not recycled water, right?
I see them as the same thing. Or are you saying they're different? Recycled.
So recycled water is the water that has been treated at the wastewater treatment plant. That's where the project that we implemented phase 1 of, and we have 30 customers now. Gray water is water from the sinks that is used in the backyard of homes before treatment for irrigation purposes.
It is the former, not the latter.
Got it. Got
Yeah,
it.
because
Oh,
I want to
yes.
see if it's grown as far as the customer base has grown, if anybody has really felt that they need to use that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good item for like an annual
Yes.
update. Yeah. Elisa, did you have anything to add? Okay. Nor do I. Okay. So I think, do we have any oral updates from staff? Moving on to the next item.
Yes, we have an oral update. Councilmember Mendel, this has been your last CSC meeting after 13 years of doing this. You've been involved in the Sustainability Committee now for, like I said, 13 years, 5 years when you were on Planning Commission, and then 8.5 years as a council member. So staff wants to recognize your contributions to the sustainability and the greening of the city. And being who we are, we have prepared a PowerPoint presentation for you. So as I mentioned, we want to acknowledge and thank you for your tireless work over the last 13 years. And the first meeting of the sustainability that you attended was in October of 2007. You served on the Planning Commission for almost 5 years. And since July of 2012, you chaired the first meeting of the Sustainability Committee and for the past 8.5 years. Next. Eric?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
We are.
I love that photo.
Absolutely, yes. So among the accomplishments of the city and CSC during your term has been the phase 1 of the solar project at the Water Pollution Control Facility that was built and completed in 2010. At that time, the 1 megawatt project was almost the largest project in Alameda County. We became the second one by a hair. And then the cogen was completed in 2014, the cogeneration project at the WPCF. All energy needs at the plant are served by that cogeneration project, and the excess energy is sent to other city facilities. Phase 2 of solar with 600 kilowatt was completed earlier this year. The top photo there shows that shows Councilmember Mendel receiving a Green Power Leadership Award from the US EPA in October of 2015. And the bottom right photo is from Aclera Award for Environmental Leadership, which was awarded in the spring of 2016. For the past 5 years, Hayward has been among the US EPA's top 30 entities with highest on-site generation of renewable energy. The top of the list this year, I believe, is Apple Corporation. Next. You have served on several outside entities and agencies. One of them is BOSCA. You have had leadership role on BOSCA, both as chair and vice chair of their policy committee, and also the vice chair and chair of BOSCA that has 26 member agencies in the Bay Area. Among the accomplishment was negotiating an amendment to the 2009 agreement with SAPUC. That was really a huge achievement. You've had leadership roles on EBDA. The critical leadership that you brought to EBDA was negotiating a 20-year new JPA. We were working on it before you joined EBDA for 2 years, and we couldn't get agreement of all. So your leadership was much appreciated, and we thank you for that. Next. Eric?
Yeah, and then so Councilmember Mendel, we had our first climate action plan was adopted when you were a planning commissioner in 2009. And then you helped us to incorporate the CAP into the general plan in 2014. And this photo is from our March on the Shoreline a few years ago. That was a great turnout. You served as a board member on the HASPA Board of Trustees since 2014. Helped us to refine the mission of HASPA to focus on sea level rise. And most recently oversaw the preparation of the Hayward Regional Shoreline Adaptation Master Plan, which is currently out for review. We adopted Z&E policies in 2016, and very significant achievement here is the formation of East Bay Community Energy. You served on the steering committee starting in 2016, and then on the board starting in 2017. And then more recently, we adopted REACH codes this year for electrification of new construction. And then lastly, we met our 2020 greenhouse gas reduction goal 2 years early, 2020 goal being met in 2018. And then this past summer, council adopted more ambitious greenhouse gas reduction goals too, with an eye on the future. So that's it. Just want to say thank you again for all of your leadership, and thought we can we're gonna stop the screen share. If we can go back here, and we can, if everybody can turn on their cameras, we'll take a closing photo, and then we'll add that to the presentation.
Oh. How do you turn on the camera?
Your camera's on. You're good. We can see you.
Okay. All right.
All right. Anybody else want to turn on? Okay, let me. All right, I'm going to do a screen grab here.
All right.
Oh, sorry. One more time. One more try here. All right, everybody smile. Okay, looks good.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Councilmember Mendel, on behalf of the entire department, I want to thank you for your leadership, your tireless work on CSC, and we are going to miss you.
You know, I thank you. That was really nice. I appreciate that. I think all of you know, because you've heard me talk about it before, that, you know, of all the achievements and successes that I've been a part of during my time on council, I am proudest of what we have accomplished together on this committee. We are literally doing our part to save our planet from climate change. And we're good at it. We're really good at it as a team, and it takes everyone here. I want to thank Alex and the entire staff for the work being done. I want to thank Elisa and Francisco for being my partners on this committee for many years now. And I want a special acknowledgement goes to Eric Pearson, because I think that Eric, you and I are the last folks remaining on this committee from when it was formed in 2007. You know,
well, Alex was around as well.
You were around, but David had it at the beginning.
In the very beginning.
Yeah. So yeah. Eric's got a few more meetings on you there, Alex. So it's just been an honor working with all of you on this committee for the last 12 or 13 years. So keep up the great work without me.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. And I would love to have an actual physical copy of that certificate you put on the screen, because that is one I will proudly display on my wall, more proudly than some of the others I'm likely to get in the next month or so. So I really appreciate that.
We thank you, Al. We certainly appreciate you.
Thanks, Francisco. Okay. Let me just make sure there's nobody with a hand up. No, I don't see anyone. Okay, so with that and no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.